Imagine for a moment you're lying in bed, your body still and quiet in the darkness. Suddenly you feel it. Something is moving under your skin. It's not a rash. It's not an itch. It's something more sinister, more real, tiny, invisible creatures crawling, burrowing, twisting through your flesh. You can almost hear them, feel them, but there's nothing there. Now imagine this isn't a momentary sensation. It's not just a trick of the mind. It's your reality, every waking minute. How do you explain something so real yet so impossibly false? This is the terrifying, agonizing experience of Ekbom Syndrome, also known as Delusory Parasitosis. It's a condition where the victim becomes convinced that bugs, sometimes parasites, sometimes invisible creatures, are crawling under their skin. For them, the sensation is unbearable. They pick at their skin, scratch until it bleeds, and often turn to dangerous, invasive measures to rid themselves of what they know is there. But why does the mind break like this? Why does it create such vivid, grotesque sensations when the body is, in fact, perfectly fine? Let's dive into this chilling phenomenon, starting with its disturbing origins. The disturbing history. Ekbom syndrome was first described by Swedish neurologist Carl Ekbom in the 1930s, who observed patients suffering from this bizarre delusion. But even though Ekbom first identified the condition, similar cases have been recorded throughout history. Imagine a soldier returning from war, covered in scars and infected with a deep sense of dread. He swears he can feel the bugs crawling on his body, his arms, his neck, torturing him in ways that seem all too real. What was dismissed as madness centuries ago has now found a name. For years, it's been the source of countless hospital visits and emergency room searches, as people are driven to the edge of their sanity, desperately seeking a cure for something that doesn't even exist. Yet the terrifying part? Ekbom syndrome isn't just a figment of a paranoid mind. It's a neurological condition, and it can strike anyone, anywhere. What's most chilling about Ekbom syndrome is that, for the people suffering from it, it's not just a passing phase. This is a relentless, ongoing battle against an invisible enemy. Take the case of soldiers returning from the trenches of war. Many of them, tormented by post-traumatic stress, would report similar symptoms. The idea of invisible bugs crawling on them haunted them, and their minds seemed to latch onto this particular horror. It wasn't just psychological trauma. It was a real feeling, a compulsion that overwhelmed the rational mind. Such cases were often dismissed as nothing more than battle fatigue, ignored or misunderstood by medical professionals. The most disturbing part? The persistence of these delusions across various cultures and time periods. In the 19th century, during a global frenzy of fear and superstition, there were reports of people who believed their bodies were being ravaged by demonic entities, insects, or other creatures, some even going as far as to mutilate their own flesh in search of the invisible parasites. Though we now have a clearer scientific understanding, the horror of those past cases is still felt today. Ekbom syndrome isn't just about one person's delusions. It's a chilling reminder of how the mind can create its own reality, turning the body into a battleground. And as much as we have advanced scientifically, some still remain locked in this nightmarish world, unable to escape the feeling of bugs crawling under their skin. The scientific explanation and symptoms. When we talk about Ekbom syndrome, we're talking about a form of delusional parasitosis, delusion being the key word. It's not that the victim is lying or trying to manipulate others. No, for them, it is as real as the air they breathe. They can feel the sensation of insects crawling, burrowing, or biting, but it's all in their heads. But what causes this? Scientists point to a disruption in the brain's sensory processing system. Our brain processes touch, temperature, pain, everything we feel, through complex neural pathways. For those with Ekbom syndrome, something goes awry in these pathways, either in the brain or the peripheral nervous system, creating the sensation of bugs under the skin. A glitch, in essence, in how the brain interprets signals. Another possible culprit is a chemical imbalance in the brain, particularly with neurotransmitters like dopamine. This imbalance can distort the senses and trigger intense, irrational beliefs. When paired with stress, anxiety, or sleep deprivation, the delusion can become all-consuming. Patients often report feeling horrible sensations of skin crawling, itching, or burning. Some even describe hearing sounds associated with the creatures, like a faint buzzing or clicking. The physical symptoms can be severe, bleeding, scarring, self-inflicted wounds as they desperately attempt to dig out the imaginary bugs. Ekbom syndrome can affect anyone, but it's most commonly seen in the elderly or in those suffering from other mental health disorders, such as depression or schizophrenia. It has also been linked to substance abuse, as certain drugs like methamphetamine can trigger the syndrome. For those already vulnerable to mental health issues, it's as if the mind cracks under pressure, manifesting as these terrifying hallucinations. A famous real-world case study. Take, for example, the case of an elderly woman referred to as Mrs. A in psychiatric journals. In her late 70s, she became convinced that she was infested with parasites. She would spend hours examining her skin, obsessively scratching at her arms and legs, convinced she was covered in insects. Despite multiple doctor visits and an exhaustive series of tests, nothing could explain her suffering. She was prescribed medications to ease the delusions, but the real breakthrough came when her family and doctors realized the root cause: isolation. Mrs. A had recently lost her husband, and her mental state deteriorated in response to the loneliness and depression that followed. The distress in her life compounded the neurological factors, triggering Ekbom syndrome. Her case was an extreme one, but it serves as a harrowing example of how the mind can twist reality. While there were no physical bugs under her skin, for Mrs. A, the sensation was too real to dismiss. Her case eventually resolved with therapy and medication, but for many, the struggle is a lifetime battle. The twist in application. You might not suffer from Ekbom syndrome, but have you ever experienced that eerie feeling of something crawling on your skin when nothing's there? Maybe it was a chill, a stray hair, or a quick phantom itch. It's a common, fleeting sensation, but it begs the question: what happens when this fleeting sensation becomes an unshakable belief? We all have moments when our senses betray us, when a misperceived sound or sight triggers a gut-wrenching response. And while Ekbom syndrome takes this to an extreme, it shows just how fragile our perception of reality can be. What if that strange feeling in the middle of the night is more than just a trick of the mind? What does it say about us when the mind can create its own terrifying truths? And when it does, how do we separate fact from feeling, reality from hallucination? Ekbom syndrome isn't just a medical mystery, it's a reflection of how the mind operates in its most fragile, terrifying form. Our perceptions, so deeply tied to our emotions and biology, can warp into something unrecognizable, and as unsettling as it is, we're left with one question: what other psychological phenomena might be lurking beneath the surface of our minds, waiting to break through? The answer, as we'll explore next, may be even more terrifying. And that is why you need to watch the next videos.